Everyone is telling you to strengthen your glutes. Your physical therapist, your trainer at the gym, that influencer that you follow online. But what if I told you that strengthening your glutes was actually making your problems worse? Hi, I'm Marian Barnick, kinesiologist and movement expert. I've spent over 30 years helping people move better, feel better, and perform better. And today I'm going to challenge everything you believe that glute strengthening is all about. By the end of this video, you're going to know whether or not you truly need glute strengthening exercises, what glute strengthening exercises are really about, and what you probably should be doing instead. So stick around, because I'm going to challenge glute strengthening as the solution to your problems and show you what really is going on that no amount of clamshells is going to fix. Now, there's a myth out there, and the internet is full of claims that glute strengthening is going to solve all your problems. Whether it's knee pain, back pain, improving your pickleball game, getting faster on the tennis court, improving your walking time, all of this can miraculously be changed by improving your glute strength. But that is a myth, my friend, because everyone is doing clamshells, everyone is doing TheraBand walks, everyone is doing glute med and glute max exercises, but no one's getting better. What is the real problem? Now, before you do a single glute exercise, you need to answer one specific question. Are your glutes weak? And if you don't know that, then why are you doing all of these exercises? Maybe we need to define what weakness means. Is that the opposite of strength? Do you need glute strengthening exercises because of weak glutes? Or is it more in line with endurance? You need to build endurance in those gluteal muscles. These are two different things. In addition, do you need to strengthen your glute maximus, your glute medius, your glute minimus? So there's a lot of questions here that we need to answer. Are your glutes weak? Are they not strong, or do they need endurance? And what glute muscles are we actually talking about? These are the questions you should be asking yourself. If you can't answer these questions, you're about to make some serious mistakes. And I'm going to give you 4 reasons why glute strengthening is not the answer to your problems. Number 1, you are playing a guessing game. Yes, you are gambling with your body. You read online somewhere that weak glutes cause knee pain. Weak glutes cause back pain. Weak glutes are why you can't get better at pickleball. Weak glutes are why it hurts to walk the dog. And because you have pain, you're assuming that this must be true. So you start doing glute exercises. But nothing is changing because you're playing a guessing game. Strength versus endurance. Are you going for the marathon approach, or are you going for the sprinting approach? Because they train totally differently. Strength versus stability. Do you know if you have a stability problem and that's preventing you from improving the strength in your glutes? Strength versus mobility. Do you know if you have enough range of motion to actually work on strengthening your glutes? If you don't know the answers to these questions, then you are playing a guessing game with your body. You're playing a guessing game hoping that one of the exercises you pick will actually improve the problem that you have. That's like playing the lottery. You may have a little bit better odds than winning the millions, but you're still playing a game, a guessing game. And if you're playing this guessing game, you actually have a greater chance of increasing your pain and increasing your problems than you do of solving your problems. So if you are playing a guessing game where you're picking one exercise over the other, or you're trying a whole bunch of them hoping something will work, how are you even going to know which exercise is helping, or how are you going to know which one is increasing your pain? You're not going to know because you're playing that guessing game. So that's problem number 1. You're guessing. But even if you guess the right exercise, there's still an issue. This brings us to reason number 2. Are your exercises aligned with your goals? Let me ask you, what do you really want to achieve? Do you want to decrease your pain? Do you want to improve your daily functional activities? Do you want to be able to climb up and down the stairs without pain? Do you want to go for longer walks with your kids, with your grandkids, with your dog? Do you want to be able to play pickleball or tennis 2 to 3 times a week without having knee pain? What is it that you're looking for? Are you looking to enter a bodybuilding contest? Are you looking to increase the size of your legs, the size of your booty? Any of these could be your goals, and almost all of them do not require you to increase glute strength. I know, sounds crazy, because everything you've heard is you need to increase your glute strength because you have all these problems. Let's define our goals and let's see how that fits into glute strengthening, because everything I listed there, almost none of them require increased glute strengthening. Let that sink in for a minute. Your goal is going to define not just how you exercise, but what exercises you do. And that leads us into the question between strengthening and stability and endurance. Walking 30 seconds from your house to the car as a goal is a lot different than walking for 40 minutes in the grocery store. Think sprinter versus marathoner. As I said, they train totally differently. So if your goal is to do a 30-second walk versus a 40-minute walk, totally different. Your goals are going to define what you need to exercise and how you need to exercise. Let's look at another one. So if you want to get up and down the stairs easier, we need to look at that. Is that a mobility issue? Is that a strength issue? Is it an endurance issue? Is it a stability issue? It could be any of those. So just to say my glutes need to be stronger so I can get up and down the stairs, you're going to limit your ability to improve not only what your body needs, but also to reach your goals. If you are looking to increase the size of your booty, let's go. Let's do all the strengthening exercises that you want, because that's where strengthening comes in. Strengthening increases the size of the muscles. It's called hypertrophy, and it makes those muscles bigger. So if you want to get into bodybuilding, you want to fill out those jeans a little better, then by all means, do your strengthening exercises. But if you're looking for functional activities that we just went through, climbing the stairs, playing pickleball, walking the dog, those are not where strengthening lies. You've got to look at other factors. For most functional activities, walking, pickleball, stair climbing, you're looking at endurance way more than you're looking at strengthening. And that's going to change not only the exercises that you're doing, but how you're doing those exercises as well. Endurance activities require oxygenation of the muscles. Those 3 sets of 10 are not going to set you up for the goals that you have that require endurance. All right, so we figured out your goals. But even if strengthening is what you need to reach those goals, there still is another hurdle. And that leads us into reason number 3. Do you have enough mobility to improve your glute strength? Here's what some people don't understand. If you don't have adequate range of motion, you will never be able to optimize your force production, your strength, period. So what we need to do is see if you have enough mobility to actually work those muscles to get the strength that you desire to meet your goals. Think about it. Limited range of motion equals limited muscle activation, which means limited force production, which means no matter how hard you're training, if you are not training through that full range of motion, you will never optimize your results. It's a big waste of time where you could spend just a little bit of time improving your mobility so you can optimize your strength. Let's look at bridging as an example, because it's one of those exercises that people do a lot to try and improve glute strength. So when we talk about bridging, we've got our back on the ground, we've got our knees bent. That's our hip there. Even as we elevate our back, all we're doing is moving into a neutral position. We are moving from a flexed hip to a neutral hip. You're not doing anything for mobility. So no matter what you hear online, that strength training is going to increase your mobility, it's not going to do it. And certainly bridging is not going to do it. Going from a flexed hip to a neutral hip won't improve your mobility, won't improve your hip range of motion. In walking, in running, in pickleball, in climbing the stairs, that hip extension is vital. You're not getting any of that when you're doing strengthening activities. In fact, when you strengthen a muscle, you actually decrease the mobility because you're breaking apart fibers. Those fibers form back together tighter to be stronger, which means you have to do even more mobility to keep what you already have. Strengthening in a limited range of motion will not fix a mobility problem. I know online people say all the time, oh, let's do these exercises, these strengthening exercises, because they'll help with your hip mobility. That is not true, my friends. That is false. So you can see why mobility has to come before strengthening. Number one, you're not going to get the strength you want. You're just wasting your time because you're only working through a small, limited movement of that joint. Number two, you're going to decrease the mobility you have by doing those strengthening exercises. And you don't want that. You can see why strengthening exercises can actually lead to increased pain and decreased function. We don't want that. But here's where it really gets interesting. Even if you have the mobility, you may be sabotaging your results. And here's how. Reason number 4. You are exercising with poor body alignment. Yes, number 4 is the compensation trap. And it's probably what caused your knee pain and caused your problems in the first place. Because if you move with poor body alignment, because you have movement compensations, you are causing constant wear and tear and grinding on the joints, and you're also causing certain muscles to overwork while the ones that you're not targeting are getting weaker and weaker. This is the big one, because if you're not moving with proper body alignment, you are not moving with efficiency. Whether it is your daily activities, your sports, your function, your rehab, whatever it is, if you don't have good body alignment, you don't have movement efficiency. And that leads to breakdown in your joints, in the muscles, and also in the neural pathways that are sending the signals to have those muscles fire. So let's go back to the example of hip extension, which we need for a lot of the activities we talked about. Walking, stair climbing, pickleball, tennis. If you think glute activity is going to help that, you need to fire your glute maximus. That is the extensor muscle for the hip, but it's not the only one. So if you are doing exercises and you're not in good body alignment, you may be firing other muscles. You could be using your glute maximus, but maybe not to its full potential because you're also using your hamstrings. You're also using your adductors. These are muscles that help with hip extension, but if you're in poor body alignment, you're not getting the maximal efficiency out of that glute maximus. So let me ask you a question. Do you have tight hamstrings? No amount of stretching is helping those hamstrings are constantly tight? This is a clue that your hamstrings are picking up the slack for what your glute muscles should be doing. So let's talk about hip abduction, because then we'll talk about the other two gluteal muscles, glute medius and glute minimus. They move the leg, they abduct it away from the body, they also stabilize the pelvis so you don't have the dropping in the pelvis when you're standing on one leg. But again, everyone is talking about weak glutes. So do you know how many muscles can abduct the leg? Glute medius, glute minimus, upper fibers of the glute maximus, the TFL. Talk about the sartorius. If you have tightness down the outside of your leg, if your TFL or your IT band is super tight, again, that's another clue that you're using those muscles instead of your glute med muscles for those sidewalks that you think are training your gluteal muscles. If you put the band around your knees or the band around your ankles and you're doing those sidewalks back and forth and you think you're working your glutes, if you're not in good body alignment, you will be using all of those other muscles. So why would other muscles take over? Well, your body is incredibly smart and your nervous system, your brain, runs your body. So if you have certain muscles that are tight, certain muscles that don't want to work well, or if you have those muscle compensations causing that problem, your brain will say, okay, the TFL is working really well. Let's just keep using the TFL and we'll just let the glute rest. Or the glute's been overworked, it's tired, so your body will say, hey, I can't get enough energy out of that glute med, so I'm going to use those other muscles to do those abduction, to do those side walks, to move that leg, because it's going to go to the easiest area that it can use to perform the functions. The brain is smart. It knows what it wants to do, move sideways. It'll find the easiest way to do it. So if you are out of alignment, if you have movement compensations, unless you correct those first, you will not be using the proper muscles. So you need to unstack the problem and get to the root cause of where those compensations are coming from, where your issues are, which is probably why you think the glutes are weak in the first place, before you start stacking up and doing strength training. So the brain's going to use those muscles, the ones that it has access to, and they're just going to get stronger and stronger, and they're going to take over. And that may be why you think your glutes are weak, because those other muscles have taken over. Not because, quote, the glutes are weak, they've become weak because of your poor body alignment and the movement compensations that you're using, not only for daily activities, but while you're actually doing the exercises that you think can help with your problem. So when you go to fix the problem without fixing the cause, you're moving in the same dysfunctional way. You're strengthening the compensation. You're not correcting it. So that's why your favorite exercises aren't working. Let's talk about the clamshell exercise. How many times have you done the clamshell exercise? How many times has your physiotherapist or someone online told you to do this clamshell exercise? And has anyone had any real success with it? You wiggle around, you try to get in the position, your therapist is moving your knee, is moving your hip, is trying to get you to feel for that glute med firing before you lift your knee. And it's awkward, and do you really feel it when you're working? But if you have to feel for that glute med while you're doing the exercise to make sure you're firing that muscle, what happens when you stand up, when you've got your posture that you have in a weight-bearing position before you go walk? Are you going to sit there with your hands on your glute meds to make sure they're firing? And do you know when you're walking, at what point that glute med should be firing? It's not a great exercise if you have to palpate into that muscle, see if it's firing to strengthen, and then when you're standing, you have no idea if you're actually using that muscle. We don't want to do that. Same thing with the band walking. You put the band around your knees, the band around your ankles, you're walking sideways. You hope you're using those glute med muscles. But if your form is off, if you're leaning forward, if you're stepping with your feet out to the sides, if you're stepping with your feet on the side and not flat each time you step, if you're stepping forward or backwards, if you're not keeping in proper alignment when you're standing, you're not using the glute meds, you're using all those other muscles, just as you would because you haven't corrected that movement compensation. No use doing that exercise if you can't get into alignment before you do it. You're training the movement compensation. You're not training your glutes. Now here's the last point I'd like to make. Muscles don't work in isolation. So when you talk about glute strengthening and you see all the exercises for glute strengthening, there's really no way you can say, I'm going to strengthen my glute max, I'm going to strengthen my glute medius, I'm going to strengthen my glute minimus, because we're functional beings that work in collaboration with all our joints, with all our muscles. It would be so difficult to say that you have one exercise that's going to just pinpoint that glute. It would be far more advantageous and far more optimal to reach your goals by training a movement versus training a muscle. If you've got a movement deficit, if you've got a range of motion deficit, that's what you should be training to help you reach your goals, to help you reach your function. But you're not going to know that unless you have a movement evaluation. How are you going to know if you have a mobility problem unless you get it checked? How are you going to know that you have glute weakness unless you get it checked? How do you know that when you're climbing up the stairs, it's mobility versus stability versus strength that's giving you the problem? That's why you need to unstack. You need to see where the root cause is for your body alignment issues, and then you can restack back up to those strengthening activities to reach your goals. And that's why I use the kinetic stacking method. We work from the foundation all the way up to make sure that your foundation is secure before you start with any of these exercises. Number one, it's going to optimize the results. Number two, it's going to decrease your risk of injury from doing the wrong exercises. And it's going to keep you out of the guessing game, trying a million different exercises, praying that one of them is going to fix it. You don't have the time for that. You want to be active. You want to get rid of the pain. You want to be back on the courts, back out on the road, back with your friends and your family doing the activities you love. Don't waste your time with glute strengthening exercises if you don't need them. If this is interesting to you, if I've hit some points that really make sense to you and you are interested in figuring out your body alignment, making sure you don't waste more time with activities that aren't helping you, and if you have questions about mobility versus glute strength, then first of all, subscribe to my channel, hit the bell so you know when the next video is coming out, but also go to the community. I've started a community on my YouTube channel. So if you have questions, if you're interested in more information, drop a post in there, because I will be in the future doing some online movement evaluations. So if you're curious about that, if you're curious about getting to the actual root cause of your problem, then I want you to drop your name in there, drop a comment in there, so I know you're interested and I can let you know when that's going to be happening. I hope this has helped you figure out as to whether or not you truly need glute strengthening exercises, or if there's something else foundationally that you should be working on first. I hope this has helped, and have a great day.